They never expected the satellites to catch it. But at 3:14 a.m., a classified American surveillance bird flying over the Gulf spotted something that made the Pentagon freeze. Hidden deep inside an abandoned energy facility in northern Mexico, just 110 miles from the Texas border, were long metallic containers. At first, analysts assumed they were oil storage units, but when the thermal signatures came back, they weren't warm like fuel tanks. They were cold, suspiciously cold, almost like missile casings. The first whisper inside the Pentagon came from a single analyst. "Sir, these match the structure of Chinese YJ-21 hypersonic launch tubes." Nobody wanted to believe it, but when the high-resolution images loaded, all doubts vanished. China had secretly positioned $410 million worth of hypersonic missiles practically at America's doorstep. And the craziest part? They didn't deploy them directly. They hid them through a private security contractor in Mexico, one that was supposedly neutral. It was the perfect cover. No Chinese flags, no military uniforms, no official fingerprints. For Beijing, it was a masterstroke. For Washington, it was a red line crossed. Within minutes, the Pentagon Situation Room lit up like a battlefield. Generals, intelligence chiefs, cyber war commanders, all scrambled to their seats. The president was briefed in under 90 seconds. He asked one question: can they hit Texas from there? The answer was the one nobody wanted: yes, in under 6 minutes. The U.S. didn't strike immediately. Instead, they launched something far more aggressive: Operation Ghost Signal. First step, silence. All satellite feeds over northern Mexico were redirected through a classified AI imaging system, preventing any leak of what the U.S. had discovered. China couldn't know America had already seen everything. Second step, infiltration. 2 Blackhawks lifted off from a base in Arizona, carrying the most elite cyber ops and intelligence team America had. Their mission wasn't to destroy the missiles, but to take control of them. When they landed near the site, under complete darkness, the team moved silently through the desert. No footsteps, no radio chatter, only night vision goggles glowing like green fire. They cut power to the entire compound in under 12 seconds. The Chinese contractors inside panicked, assuming it was a routine outage. They didn't know U.S. forces were already inside the main facility, tapping directly into the missile control center. What they found shocked them. Each missile was remotely tethered to command nodes in Hainan and Shenzhen. China wasn't just hiding hardware, they were preparing a forward strike point. They plugged in a specialized device nicknamed the Reaper. If China ever tried to fire the missiles, the U.S. could trigger an override that would permanently shut down the entire system. Washington didn't announce anything. They kept the discovery a secret. Beijing still believed their hidden arsenal was untouched, undetected, and fully operational. Then the U.S. made their real move. At 2:02 a.m., every Chinese military satellite covering the Western Hemisphere went unexpectedly blind. Not destroyed, just frozen, immobilized by a burst of next-gen electronic interference that China didn't even know America had developed. At the same moment, the Mexican government received a private encrypted message from Washington. "You have foreign weapons on your soil. You have 1 hour." Panic swept through Beijing. They suddenly lost contact with their Mexico assets. Their surveillance went dark. Their missile telemetry vanished. For a brief moment, China feared the U.S. had already taken out the launch site. But the truth was even more humiliating. When Mexican forces stormed the compound, guided quietly by American intel, they found the launch tubes empty. Every missile was already gone because the U.S. had removed them 3 hours earlier using a classified rapid transport drone system capable of lifting entire missile units without any radar signature. China had spent $410 million deploying the weapons, only for the U.S. to steal them without firing a shot. China demanded answers. They confronted Washington behind closed doors, but the U.S. response was brutal. What missiles? China was forced to act like nothing had happened. Publicly, they stayed silent. Privately, their military council erupted in anger. Their most advanced hypersonic weapons had been exposed, hacked, disabled, and captured, all inside another country without a single American soldier being detected. And the message America sent was louder than any missile strike. If you place weapons near our border, we will take them before you even know we're there.
Beijing stayed quiet on the outside, but inside Zhongnanhai, the atmosphere had turned electric. Nobody could understand how the United States had extracted 3 hypersonic missiles from a fortified compound without triggering a single alarm. Every general blamed a different department. Every intelligence officer defended themselves. And every minute, the fear grew. If the Americans could do this in Mexico, could they do it inside China too? China launched an emergency audit of every overseas asset. Africa, South America, the Middle East. They wanted to know if any other hidden deployments were compromised. What they found was even more terrifying. 4 communication nodes located around the world were showing the same glitch the missiles had shown before disappearing. Someone had infiltrated their global system. And it wasn't Russia. It wasn't India. It wasn't Europe. It was the same digital signature that had disabled the Mexico missiles. Ghost signal. The Chinese Cyber Defense Bureau attempted to trace the source, but the deeper they went, the worse it got. The intruder wasn't hacking from the outside. It was already living inside their system, buried so deep that removing it could shut down half of China's missile network. They were trapped, completely exposed. Meanwhile, in Washington, the stolen missile sat inside a classified military facility in Nevada. Engineers examined the technology piece by piece, and what they discovered confirmed the White House's biggest suspicion. The Mexico deployment wasn't defensive. It was part of a coordinated plan to create a silent pressure zone around the U.S. Forward hypersonic units placed outside China's borders, ready to strike in minutes. America knew exactly what Beijing wanted. And Beijing now knew America understood. But what the U.S. did next pushed China over the edge. At 9:22 p.m. Eastern Time, the president approved a covert demonstration. Not a statement, not a warning, a quiet surgical message only China would understand. Over the South China Sea, a Chinese naval drone suddenly lost control. Then a second, then a third. Within minutes, an entire squadron of unmanned surveillance craft fell out of the sky, disabled by a radio frequency burst that matched nothing in international databases. The message was simple. We can reach you anywhere. China immediately scrambled jets, fearing an American strike, but there was no attack, no planes, no ships, just silence. The same silence the U.S. had used in Mexico now echoed in China's own backyard. Inside China's Central Military Commission, the tone shifted from anger to panic. They could no longer trust their early warning radar, their satellites, their drone surveillance, their overseas assets. Someone was peeling layers of their strategic shield like paper. One general finally snapped, "If they can blind us, they can hit us." The U.S. knew exactly what effect this would have. While China scrambled to secure its systems, American intelligence intercepted internal communication, revealing Beijing's next move. They were preparing a retaliatory cyber strike on U.S. power grids. This was the moment Washington had been waiting for. As soon as China initiated the first wave, something unprecedented happened. Their entire attack vectors collapsed. Servers shut down. Command centers lost connection. The virus they deployed looped back and infected their own network. For a split second, every Chinese cyber command screen displayed the same 2 words: access denied. China was shocked. They thought it was an American counterattack, but it wasn't. It was Ghost Signal, the same stealth program that had infiltrated their Mexico command chain, now blocking their retaliation from the inside. And this is when Beijing finally realized the truth. The U.S. hadn't just stolen their missiles. They had planted a digital parasite inside China's most sensitive defense networks months earlier. The Mexico operation wasn't the start. It was the moment China finally saw the trap that had been under them all along. With their hypersonic deployments compromised, their satellites blinded, their drones falling, their cyber weapons turned against them, Beijing faced a choice they never expected in this silent shadow war. Escalate and risk everything, or stay quiet and pretend nothing had happened. For the first time in years, China chose silence. Because they knew one thing clearly now. America wasn't just one step ahead. It was inside every step China thought it was taking.